Happy Wednesday, everyone. We're going to break down the details for you over the next 7 days. And then in the longer range, towards that Halloween time frame, a big pattern change looks to unfold, and we may not be done with the tropics just yet. So let's expand the view this afternoon and take a look at the overall North American view, and you can really see what's happening. I mean, we've got kind of a dominant ridge of high pressure. I mean, this is unusually warm conditions for this time of year, pumping in all that warm air off the Pacific, and the jet stream is well to the north, folks. I mean, look, it's all the way bottled up in Canada, really. So any colder air to speak of is well up into Canada, and these jet streams ride the northern periphery. That's where we have at least some cooler air and some instability along the way. If you take a look at the overall satellite picture, you can actually see it a little bit better. We do in fact have some showers and thunderstorms approaching Oregon and portions of Washington, but yeah, this is the only game in town with the jet stream well to the north, because anything further south has basically been dominated by a ridge of high pressure. There is the remnants of what was Oscar going out into the open waters of the Atlantic. And then what is this, folks? That is Christy. If you guys remember Nadine, that quickly formed and impacted Belize, that went across Central America. It lost all of its tropical characteristics, but regained them in the Pacific, and that's what Christy came out of, and now we're talking it's a formidable major hurricane, if not a category 4. You can actually see the eye on this. Luckily, it's going to stay out into the open waters in the Pacific, but man, it's really a beautiful storm to look at. But fortunately, it's not going to be impacting anybody. An area to watch is going to be, even though there's nothing right now down here in the Western Caribbean, this is going to be another favored area to watch as we head towards your Halloween time frame. In fact, the Climate Prediction Center already went ahead and updated it yesterday. Actually gives us a 40% probability of our next tropical system likely to form sometime around that Halloween time frame. And if it does, it will in fact take the name Patty. So that would be going into Halloween, into your first week of November, and then here's your second week of November, still that kind of same area, given a 20% probability of continuing tropical activity. So we still have another 5 weeks left of tropical season. It definitely doesn't look to be done, but wow, look at this, folks. Yes, for a good part of the country, it has been very dry, if not record-breaking territory. This is your all-time October dry and wettest months, and check this out, folks. Anywhere in the you see the ones here, that is your all-time driest October on record to date. So plenty of warms. In fact, over half of the climate stations are actually into the one category. That is your driest all time. Basically, you really haven't seen much of anything as far as precipitation since well back into September. So yeah, this is just historically a very, very dry month of October. It's really just been down further south into where they impacted Florida with Milton. And then, of course, Helene made landfall in September. But yes, obviously, we had that big rain event in Roswell, New Mexico. And then we also had some additional heavier rains. But other than that, everywhere else has just been kind of bone dry. And it continues likely to remain on the drier side in the week ahead, at least for the next 7 days. And plenty warm, folks. In fact, record-breaking temperatures. Today, we're talking about 22 possible record-breaking temperatures. All these areas that are highlighted and circled, that's where you could experience well to the 90s here across a good part of Texas, and those 80s surge well into Kentucky, if not 70s into Pennsylvania. Even some records extending all the way into Vermont, New Hampshire, Massachusetts. Just highly unusual for this time of year. You can see the blue, that's where the jet stream, right? The jet stream has dipped. So, but there's not really that many areas that are experiencing even cooler, even fall-like conditions right now. And because the dry air mass with that heat of high pressure in place, there's really not much instability. Again, the buckle in the jet stream allows some showers and thunderstorms that will be draping across our northern areas of Minnesota, back into Iowa, portions of Missouri. That will likely fishtail into Illinois, Wisconsin, getting into Michigan, possibly some areas into Indiana. But other than that, as we head into the weekend, pretty bone dry. I mean, this is your surface map going into the weekend time frame towards the 26th of October, and you're talking plenty of dry conditions, and there's really not much water vapor to speak of. Just very, very, very unusual dry conditions across the lower 48. It looks like to be a good part of the month. And look at that, even going into Monday, look at that dominant ridge of high pressure. You got one here, you got one highlighted across the mid-Atlantic that just pumps in. I mean, look at the 540 line. You can almost barely see it. It's well up into Canada. Extremely high, you know, just pretty rare, definitely rare for this time of year. The only instability in town is going to be across the Pacific Northwest regions, where they are going to be getting a cool down, if not some colder weather for sure, as we start getting into next week. And that's going to be the beginning stages of the big changes that will likely take place, but that likely won't take place until during the middle of the week towards your Halloween. So before that, we've got plenty of warm air to contend with. In fact, 15 upwards, so 20 degrees above average, surging all the way into Canada. And there's your jet stream. It finally starts to dip as we head starting into Monday. And with that dip, that is definitely going to bring down some colder air for sure. But the warm surge is going to be alive and prevalent out ahead of it. I mean, some of those temperature anomalies are going to be insanely warm for this time of year. And you get that clash in temperatures. And you know what that means, folks? We're going to start to see severe weather come back, with a big cool down out west and a rapid warm up out in the middle part of the country. You've got that clash in temperatures, and that's going to bring the big change. Yes, you definitely need rain, but you don't need it in the form of severe weather. Unfortunately, that's what's going to be on the table as we head into the middle of the next week. But by Tuesday, whew, I mean, look at this, folks. We're talking, you know, 15, 20. I mean, that little bullseye right there into Nebraska, Iowa, Minnesota, Wisconsin. That is insane stuff. That's 30, 35, upwards to almost 40 degrees above average for this time of year. And this is low temperatures for Tuesday. Low temperatures. I mean, yeah, that is insanely warm. Almost near 70 near Dallas, but it is in the 70s in Kansas, Missouri, into Iowa. We got 70s for lows in Wisconsin. I mean, that's at the end of October, folks. That is crazy warm for this time of year. But there's the cooler air coming in across British Columbia, and that's going to be the change, or at least the setup of change, that's going to bring at least the rains coming back for the middle part of the country. And yes, it will have some severe storms associated with it, extending across the plains. This will likely get going sometime, likely maybe on Tuesday night, heading into Wednesday. Of course, this is a week out from now, still a ways away, but definitely for those begging for rain are going to finally start to get some by the time we head into that end of October, going to those first couple of days of November. But you can see what's happening here. This little vorticity kind of stays to the north. It really doesn't drop southbound. It actually shifts further north. So that cold air is only going to be extending so far, right? It's going to bring in the instability as far as the rain opportunities across the middle part of the country, but it's not really going to bring that much cooler air with it. So take what you can get, but definitely looks to be some rain, you know, moving back in the picture. But there's what it looks like for Halloween, at least at the moment, with again that much of the lower 48 with warm air in place, with the cooler air extending. It keeps extending out into their western regions, and with that vorticity kind of heading further northeast, yeah, there's not much further south, so it's not going to have much push and that cooler shot of air to bring it south, but it is going to bring at least enough to overturn the atmosphere to bring some much needed rain, and some of these could actually be severe. So yes, do expect at least the heavier rains will likely extend across the upper Great Lakes into the upper Midwest, and then lighter amounts as you fishtail further south into Missouri, Oklahoma, and even Texas. And yes, this could be possibly Patty by then, trying to show up on the map by the time we head into Halloween. Of course, this is the GFS, just kind of one model, but yes, there's definitely signs it could form into the Western Caribbean and be near Jamaica by the time we head towards that, Halloween time frame. And you look at the overall ensembles, kind of having the same deal, right? We've got areas of low pressure really consolidating right around that Halloween or that November 1st time frame. So this is definitely an area to watch. The Climate Prediction Center already has a 40% probability that a low pressure does in fact form, and if it does, it will take the name Patty. And what's usually interesting is it's usually next to impossible to have a storm impact the United States in November, just because you have such a series of cold fronts moving across to push them well out into the open waters, but really not going to have that many cold fronts, right? So you can't 100% rule out any tropical formation to possibly, at least at this point. Of course, this is a long ways out, but you can't really 100% roll out, because you can see even by the 3rd, we really don't have that cooler air extending to sweep out any tropical system out into the open waters. So in other words, it's just going to kind of fester down here into the Caribbean, get near Cuba, likely get near the Bahamas. And we'll just have to see if it's close enough to possibly impact Florida or not. But again, this is a long ways out. It hasn't even formed yet. So it's just something that we're kind of watching in the extended range. But the ensembles definitely are there, with a lot of members kind of showing up on the map, trying to extend this even further north as we head into that first couple of days on November. So we'll be watching this area of low pressure, because we really don't have the cold fronts to say, hey, it's a certainty it's going to be going out into the open waters of the Atlantic at this point. But right now, the breakdown over the next 7 days, kind of what you've been seeing, right? Still remaining kind of high and dry for a good part of the lower 48 is just where the jet stream buckles. Of course, it's raining where it typically is this time of year across the Pacific Northwest, lighter as you go further inland across the Mountain West. Then of course we have that one little complex happening across the upper Midwest, but it's, and further south is just kind of bone dry. But it's not really until we add into that secondary system towards that Halloween, into that first day or two of November, of the big change that will likely unfold, and much needed rains coming back across the northern, central, and likely southern plains as well. So this is a welcome sight. Many of these areas hasn't seen anything, if not even a drop of rain, for the entire month. So that could end towards your Halloween, and likely could possibly extend. But notice it's dry. That's basically the cold front not making it all the way into the southeast. That's what leaves me, again, still the possibility. This is the blend of models likely puts the heaviest rains into the Bahamas, but it definitely starts to get close to Florida, where it has at least some impact. So it's going to be something we're going to keep an eye on in the days ahead with this system that likely will possibly form, because we're not done just quite yet with tropical storms season. So guys, I appreciate you guys watching. Do like this video, definitely hit the subscribe button, and catch me next update. Wire protect you before and after the storm.